Captain Kang Wu stood on the bridge of the eternal dawn and looked at the stars ahead. His ship was the biggest and best that Earth had ever built. 500 of the smartest humans were on board. They had food for 10 years, weapons that could blow up moons, and computers that could think faster than 1,000 people. But Kang Wu was not thinking about any of that. He was thinking about the empty spaces between the stars. Places where whole solar systems used to be. Places where now there was nothing at all. "Captain," said Park Nari, his science officer. She was young but very smart. "We are getting close to the void zone. The readings are ... strange." Kang Wu nodded. The void zones were why they were here. 3 months ago, the Hadron system just disappeared. 12 planets, 2 suns, and 4 billion people. Gone, not destroyed, not moved. Just gone like they never existed. The other aliens in the galaxy said it was normal. Stars died all the time, they said. The Zilithian Empire laughed at the humans for being scared. The Vorthan Collective said their computers showed it was just old stars burning out, but humans knew better. Stars don't just vanish. People don't just stop existing. Something was taking them. How long until we reach the edge? Kang Wu asked. 2 hours, sir, said Lim Jun from his weapons station. He was a big man with quick hands and sharp eyes. All weapons are ready. Shields are at full power. Kang Wu almost smiled. Lim Jun always thought weapons could solve everything. But what do you shoot at when your enemy is nothing? How do you fight something that makes things not exist? The bridge was quiet except for the soft sounds of computers working. Outside, the big windows, space looked normal. Stars twinkled like tiny diamonds. But Kang Wu knew that some of those stars were already gone. They just didn't know it yet. "Captain," Park Nari said again. Her voice was different now, worried. "I'm getting readings that don't make sense. It's like space itself is wrong up ahead. Show me." The main screen lit up with numbers and graphs. Kang Wu was not a scientist, but he had been in space for 20 years. He knew what normal looked like. This was not normal. The readings showed empty space ahead, but it was too empty. Space was never completely empty. There were always tiny bits of dust, old radiation from distant stars, gravity waves from planets. But ahead of them there was nothing. Not even the tiny bits of energy that filled all of space. "It's like something ate everything," Park Nari said quietly. "Even the basic stuff that makes up reality." Kang Wu walked to the big window at the front of the bridge. His reflection looked back at him, a 40-year-old man with tired eyes and gray in his black hair. Behind his reflection, the stars seemed to stop. There was a line in space where the stars just ended. "Sir," said Kim Hana from the engineering station, "the quantum drive is acting weird. It's like it doesn't want to go forward." Kim Hana was the best engineer on Earth. If she said the drive was scared, then maybe they should be scared too. "Oh." "Stop," Kang Wu ordered. The eternal dawn slowed down and stopped. In front of them was a wall of absolute blackness. It wasn't black like space between stars. It was black like nothing existed there at all. "Launch a probe," Kang Wu said. They shot a small robot toward the wall of nothing. For 10 minutes, they got normal readings. The probe was working fine, then it hit the wall. Nothing happened. The probe didn't explode. It didn't break apart. It didn't even slow down. The readings just stopped. The probe was still there, but also not there. They could see it on some instruments, but not on others. "It's like the probe is becoming not real," Park Nari said. Doctor Troy Beam came onto the bridge. He was their doctor for minds, not bodies. His job was to help people stay sane during long trips in space. But now he looked like he needed help staying sane himself. "Captain," he said, "half the crew is having the same dream. They dream about voices calling to them, voices that sound hungry." Kang Wu felt cold. Dreams could just be dreams. But when 500 people had the same dream, it meant something. What do the voices say? They say, "Come closer, we want to understand you." But the people who dream this, they wake up feeling empty, like something tried to eat their thoughts while they slept. The bridge was very quiet now. Even the computers seemed to whisper instead of beep. Sir, Lim Jun said, maybe we should go back. Tell Earth what we found? Get more ships? For a moment, Kangwu wanted to agree. Going back would be safe, smart, but he thought about the 4 billion people who used to live in the Hadron system. He thought about the other missing systems. If they went back now, more people would disappear while Earth built more ships. No, he said. We came here to find answers. The answers are in there. Captain, Park Nari said, we don't know what's in there. Our probe just stopped being real. That's why we have to go. If we don't learn what this is, it will keep eating solar systems. Maybe it will eat Earth next. Kang Wu walked back to his captain's chair. It was a big chair made of soft leather. It was supposed to make him feel important and in charge. Right now, it just made him feel small. Dr. Choi, he said, I want you to watch everyone's minds. If something starts eating our thoughts, I need to know right away. Yes, sir. Kim Hana, give me everything the engines can do. If we need to run, we run fast. Yes, sir. Lim Jun, I know weapons might not work, but keep them ready anyway. Yes, sir. Park Nari, record everything. If we don't make it back, maybe the next ship will understand what we learned. Yes, sir. Kang Wu looked at the wall of nothing one. More time? Behind him, 500 people were counting on him to be brave and smart. Ahead of him was something that ate reality itself. Take us in, he ordered. Slow and steady. The eternal dawn moved forward into the wall of absolute darkness. For a moment, everything was normal. Then the universe changed, the stars didn't disappear, they became something else. The ship didn't break, it became more than a ship. The crew didn't die. They began to learn what it meant to become something new. The last message Earth received was full of static and strange sounds. We found the source. Evolution is the only... Tell them we... Then 11 years of silence began. 11 years had passed since the eternal dawn disappeared. 11 years of watching the galaxy die piece by piece. Ambassador Han Mai-Ray sat in the great meeting hall on Nexus Station. The hall was huge, big enough to hold ships inside it. Representatives from 100 different alien species sat in their special seats, breathing their special air, speaking their special languages. But they were all saying the same thing in every language. Help us. Han Mai-Ray was 60 years old now. Her black hair had turned white. Her face had deep lines from years of worry. She was the only human in the hall and she felt very alone. Admiral Vex of the Zilithian Empire stood up to speak. The Zilithians looked like giant lizards that walked on 2 legs. They had ruled half the galaxy for 1,000 years with their big warships and their pride. But Admiral Vex did not look proud. Today, his green scales were dull and his yellow eyes were full of fear. The Dagon sector is gone, he said in his deep voice. 300 solar systems, 50 billion of our people. We sent our biggest fleet to fight them. We sent ships that could crack planets in half. The enemy destroyed them all without firing. A single shot, murmurs went around the hall. The Zilithian war fleets were famous across the galaxy. If they could not fight these enemies, who could? Prime Node Kavith spoke next. The Vorthans were very different from the Zilithians. They looked like tall, thin, gray people, but they all shared one big mind. Prime Node Kavith was speaking for all 10 trillion Vorthans at once. Our calculations show the enemy will reach the core worlds in 6 standard days, Kavith said in a voice that sounded like many voices talking together. We have tried everything. Energy weapons pass through them. Missiles cannot lock onto them. Nuclear bombs explode, but they eat the explosion and become stronger. More fear filled the hall. Han Mai-Ray watched alien beings that had lived for thousands of years start to panic like children. What are they? Asked someone from the back of the hall. Admiral Vex's claws scratched the metal table. We call them the Devours. They appear from nowhere. They eat everything, stars, planets, people, even space itself. When they are done, there is nothing left, not even memories. How many sectors have they taken? Asked another voice. Prime Node Kavith answered without emotion. 47 sectors. 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. 2,800,000,000,000 lives. The number grows every day. Hanmai closed her eyes and thought about Earth, beautiful blue Earth with its white clouds and green lands. Her home was in the path of these devours. In 6 days it would be gone forever, just like all the other worlds. "We must evacuate everyone to the other side of the galaxy," said Minister Yelka of the Trading Guild. The Trading Guild were small, furry people who were very good at making money and moving things from place to place. "There is no other side," Admiral Vex said angrily. "They come from every direction. They are surrounding us." "Then we fight," said General Krex of the warrior clans. The warriors were big, strong people who lived only for battle. "We gather every ship, every weapon, every soldier. We make our last stand." "With what?" Prime Node Kavith asked. "Normal weapons do not work. They eat our energy and become stronger. They eat our thoughts and learn our plans before we make them." The hall became quiet. Hanmai looked around at all the different aliens. Some were big, some were small. Some breathed air, some breathed gas. Some had fur, some had scales, some had metal skin. But they all had the same look in their eyes. They were beaten. "What about the ancient weapons?" asked Elder Zith of the Crystal People. The Crystal People were older than any other race. Their bodies were made of living rock that sparkled like diamonds. The Keeper archives speak of weapons that once fought similar enemies. Every eye in the hall turned to Elder Zith. The Keepers were a mystery. They had lived in the galaxy millions of years ago, but they left for deep space long before any of the current races learned to fly between the stars. "The archives are mostly destroyed," Elder Zith continued, "but there are fragments. They speak of enemies that ate thoughts and dreams. They speak of a war that lasted 10,000 years. And they speak of evolution becoming something new, to fight something old." "The Keepers disappeared," Admiral Vex said. "Maybe these devourers ate them too." "Or maybe they found a way to win," said Hanmai quietly. Everyone looked at her. The human was so small compared to most of the aliens in the hall. Her people were young. They had only been in space for 200 years. Most of the other races had been flying between stars when humans still lived in caves. "What do you mean, Ambassador?" asked Prime Node Kavith. Hanmai stood up slowly. "The Keepers left the galaxy. They did not disappear, they left. Maybe they learned how to become something these devourers could not eat. Maybe they learned how to evolve." "Become what?" asked Admiral Vex. "I don't know." "But 11 years ago? My people sent a ship to study the void zones. The ship disappeared. Everyone said it was destroyed. But what if it wasn't? What if it found the same thing the Keepers found?" The hall was quiet for a long moment. Then alarms started ringing. A young Zalithian officer ran into the hall. His scales were bright with excitement and fear. "Admiral, long-range sensors are picking up a ship signature approaching from Sector 0. "What kind of ship?" Admiral Vex demanded. "SI are showing as human. It matches the signature of the Eternal Dawn." The hall exploded with noise. Aliens talking, shouting, arguing in 100 different languages. Hanmai felt her heart start beating very fast. "That's impossible," said Prime Node Kavith. "No ship can survive in the void zones. Our probes last only minutes before they stop existing." "Sir," the young officer continued, "the ship ... It's different. It's much bigger than it should be. And the energy readings ... They don't match anything in our databases." Hanmai stood up again. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was strong. "Put it on screen." The great display at the front of the hall lit up. It showed deep space and distant stars. At first there was nothing. Then something appeared at the edge of the screen. It looked like a ship, but it was wrong somehow. The hull seemed to move like liquid metal. Strange patterns covered its surface. Patterns that hurt to look at. It was 3 times bigger than the Eternal Dawn had been, but it still felt like the same ship. "My God," Hanmai whispered. "Open a communication channel," ordered Admiral Vex. The screen changed. A human face appeared. Hanmai recognized him immediately, even though he should have been 11 years older. Captain Kang Wu looked exactly the same as the day his ship disappeared, but his eyes were different. They held depths that seemed to go on forever. "This is Captain Kang Wu of the human vessel Eternal Dawn," he said calmly. "We received your distress signals from halfway across the galaxy. We've come to help." Another human appeared beside him, Park Nari, the science officer. She also looked unchanged by time. 11 years, Han Mai said with tears in her eyes. "Where have you been?" Captain Kang Wu smiled, and somehow the smile made everyone in the hall feel a little less afraid. "We've been learning," he said. "We've seen what you call the Devourers. We know what they really are and what they want. And we know how to stop them." The hall was completely silent now. "But first," Captain Kang Wu continued, "you need to understand what you're truly fighting. And you need to decide if you're ready to become something more than what you are." The screen went dark, but hope had returned to the hall for the first time in years. The Eternal Dawn moved closer to Nexus Station, and everyone could see how much it had changed. The ship that left Earth 11 years ago was big and strong, made of white metal and sharp edges. The ship that came back was something else entirely. Its hull flowed like water, but it was still solid metal. Colors moved across its surface, blues and purples and golds that had no names. Strange symbols covered every part of it, glowing softly and changing shape as people watched. The ship was beautiful and terrible at the same time. "It's 3 times bigger than before," said the young Zalithian officer, staring at his instruments. "But our sensors say it has the same mass. That should be impossible." Han Mai pressed her face against the observation window. She could see small ships leaving the Eternal Dawn and flying toward the station. These ships looked like drops of liquid metal with people inside. "Permission to come aboard?" Captain Kang Wu's voice came over the communication system. "Granted," said Admiral Vex, though his claws were extended like he was ready to fight. 20 minutes later, the airlock doors opened. Captain Kang Wu walked in first, and Han Mai almost cried. He looked exactly the same as 11 years ago. Same face, same hair, same tired eyes. But when he looked at her, she felt like he was seeing through her skin and bones all the way. To her sole dot behind him came Park Nari, still young and smart-looking. Then Lim Jun, still big and strong. Then Dr. Choi Biam and Kim Hana and 10 other crew members. They all looked the same, but different. Like they had learned secrets that changed them from the inside. "Captain," Han Mai said, in her voice. "Broke a little. We thought you were dead." Kang Wu smiled, and his smile was warm and sad at the same time. "We were, in a way. The people who went into the Void Zone 11 years ago died. We became something new." "What happened to you?" asked Admiral Vex. His big reptile eyes stared at the humans suspiciously. Park Nari stepped forward. She carried a small device that looked like a crystal globe filled with swirling light. "We met the Devourers face to face. We learned what they are and where they come from. But more importantly, we learned what we had to become to survive them." "And what is that?" asked Prime Node Kavith. "Evolved," said Lin Jun simply. "Not just our bodies or our machines, our minds, our souls, our understanding of what reality really is." To show them what he meant, Lim Jun walked to the wall of the meeting hall. It was made of thick metal that could stop laser blasts. He put his hand on it and closed his eyes. The metal began to change. It turned soft like clay, then hard like diamond, then back to normal metal. He had changed its basic structure just by thinking about it. The aliens in the hall made sounds of fear and wonder. Some jumped back. Others leaned forward to get a better look. "How?" whispered Elder Zith of the Crystal People. "Matter and energy are the same thing," said Kim Hana, the engineer. "Thoughts and reality are the same thing. The Devourers taught us that, though they did not mean to. When you understand this truth completely, you can change one into the other." Dr. Choi Biam opened a small bag and took out something that looked like a piece of the night sky. It was black but full of tiny stars that moved around inside it. "This is a piece of Devourer matter. We took it from one we defeated." "You defeated one?" Admiral Vex stood up so fast his chair fell over. "How? Our biggest weapons do nothing to them." "Because you fight them the wrong way. Dr. Choi BM explained. Patiently. You try to destroy their bodies. But they don't really have bodies. They are made of hungry thoughts that have learned to eat reality. He held up the piece of darkness. This one tried to eat my mind while I slept. But instead of running or fighting, I did something else. I fed it. Fed it what? Asked Han Mai, my curiosity. My desire to understand. The Devourers are hungry for thoughts and feelings, but they have forgotten how to create them. They can only steal them from others. When I gave this one my curiosity freely, it remembered what it was like to wonder about things. It remembered being alive instead of just hungry. Dr. Choi Byum squeezed the dark piece gently, and it began to glow with soft white light. It chose to stop being a devourer. It chose to remember how to create instead of just consume. The hall was so quiet that everyone could hear their own heartbeats. Captain Kong? Wu looked around at all the scared alien faces. The Devourers were once people like you. A long time ago, they lived on planets and loved their families and built beautiful things. But they made a choice. They decided that taking was easier than making. Consuming was easier than creating. They became perfect. Predators, but they lost their souls. How many are there? Asked Minister Yelka of the Trading Guild. Millions, said Park Nari. They have been eating civilizations for 10,000 years. But here is what you need to understand. They are not evil. They are lost. They have forgotten how to be anything but hungry. And you can teach them to remember? Asked General Krex of the warrior clans. Some of them. The ones who still have a tiny piece of their old selves hidden deep inside. But most are too far gone. They have been hungry for too long. Those ones... Captain Kang Wu's face became hard. Those ones we will have to stop permanently. Han Mai felt her heart racing. How do we fight beings made of hungry thoughts? By becoming beings made of creative thoughts, said Kim Hanna. By evolving beyond what you are now. By learning to exist in more dimensions than just the 3 you can see. She waved her hand, and suddenly there were 2 of her standing side by side. Both looked real. Both were real. I exist in what you call normal space, but also in thought space and possibility space. The Devourers can eat normal matter, but they cannot eat pure creativity. Is it safe? Asked Elder Zith. This evolution you speak of? Dr. Choi Byum was quiet for a moment. 50 of our crew members did not survive the change. They went insane. Or their bodies could not handle existing in multiple dimensions at once. Evolution always has a cost. But 450 did survive, said Captain Kongwu. And now each of us is worth 1,000 normal fighters against the Devourers. What do you need from us? Han Mai asked. Park Nari smiled, and her smile was full of hope and determination. Time, trust, and the courage to become more than you ever dreamed you could be. The main Devourer fleet will reach the core worlds in 5 days, said Prime Node Kavath. Then we have 5 days to save the galaxy, said Captain Kongwu. 5 days to teach you how to evolve without losing yourselves. 5 days to turn an entire civilization into something the Devourers cannot consume. He looked around the hall one more time. The question is, are you ready to become something new? Or would you rather stay the same and die as you are? The aliens looked at each other with fear and hope and desperate determination. The galaxy's future hung in the balance, waiting for their answer. The greatest military leaders and smartest scientists from across the galaxy came aboard the Eternal Dawn. They expected to see a normal ship inside, maybe with some new human technology. Instead, they found something that made their minds hurt. The inside of the ship was bigger than the outside. Not a little bigger, much bigger. Hallways went in directions that should not exist. Rooms had 6 walls when they should have 4. Gravity pulled sideways in some places and not at all in others. Don't try to understand it with your old way of thinking, said Kim Hanna as she led them through corridors that twisted like ribbons. This ship exists in 7 dimensions now, not just 3. Your eyes can only see 3, so your brain gets confused. Admiral Vex walked very carefully, his claws clicking on floors that seemed to curve upward even though they felt flat. How do you live in this madness? It's not madness when you understand the rules, Kim Hanna replied. Reality has more rules than you thought. We just learned some new ones. They reached a room that looked normal except for one wall that showed the inside of a star. Real fire and plasma moved behind the transparent surface, but no heat came through. Welcome to our learning center, said Park Nari. She looked the same as always, but when she moved, sometimes there were 3 of her, sometimes just 1. This is where we figured out what the Devours really are. Dr. Troy Beam stood next to a table covered with floating pictures made of light. The pictures showed strange creatures that looked like dark clouds with too many teeth. These are the Devours as they appear in normal space, but this is not their real form. He waved his hand and the pictures changed. Now they showed the same creatures but different. They looked like people, different kinds of people from many different worlds. But their faces were empty and hungry. 2 million years ago, they were like you, Dr. Troy Beam continued. They had families and homes and dreams. They built cities and wrote songs and explored their world with wonder. What changed? Asked Prime Node Kavith. They discovered what they called the easy way, said Park Nari sadly. Instead of creating new ideas, they learned to steal ideas from other people's minds. Instead of building things, they learned to take things that others built. Instead of loving, they learned to consume love itself. Kim Hanna touched the wall showing the inside of the star. They found out that thoughts have power, real physical power. When you think about something hard enough, you can change reality. But there are 2 ways to use this power. She made the star in the wall grow brighter. You can create new thoughts, new possibilities, new realities. This is hard work. It takes time and effort and imagination, but it makes the universe bigger and more wonderful. Then she made the star grow darker. Or you can steal thoughts and possibilities from others. This is easy. You just take what someone else created. But every time you do this, the universe gets smaller and emptier. Admiral Vex stared at the dying star. They chose the easy way, yes, and once they started, they could not stop. Stealing thoughts became easier than thinking. Taking became easier than making. They forgot how to create anything new. They only knew how to consume. Dr. Troy Beam showed them more pictures. These showed planets covered with beautiful cities. Then the same planets empty and dark. They ate their own world first. All the creativity, all the dreams, all the love. When there was nothing left, they built ships and went looking for other worlds to eat. But how do they eat thoughts? Asked Elder Zith. Thoughts are not food? Everything is energy, said Kim Hanna. Your thoughts, your dreams, your emotions, they are all forms of energy. The Devourers learn to absorb this energy directly. When they eat your creativity, they become more powerful. When they eat your hope, you become empty inside. She showed them a new picture, a diagram that looked like a map of the galaxy, but with strange colors and flowing lines. They exist mostly in what we call thought space. It's a dimension where ideas have physical form, where possibilities can be touched and moved around. I don't understand, said Minister Yel Kagat. Dr. Troy Beam smiled patiently. When you dream at night, where do your dreams happen? Not in normal space. They happen in thought space. When you imagine something that doesn't exist, where does that image live? In thought space. The Devourers learn to live there all the time. Park Nari pointed to different parts of the diagram. This is why your weapons don't work. You shoot at their bodies in normal space, but their real selves are in thought space. It's like trying to kill someone by shooting their shadow. Then how do we fight them? Asked General Krex. By going into thought space ourselves, said Captain Kong. Wu as he entered the room. By learning to exist in both dimensions at once. By becoming more than we used to be. He walked to the center of the room and closed his eyes. Suddenly, everyone could feel his thoughts like a warm wind. They could sense his memories, his feelings, his determination to save the galaxy. This is what evolution means, he said. Not changing our bodies, changing our consciousness, learning to think and feel and exist in ways we never imagined. Is it dangerous? Asked Han Murray. Very dangerous, admitted Dr. Choi Byum. When we first tried to expand our consciousness, many of us went crazy. Some people's minds broke completely. Others got lost in thought space and could not find their way back to their bodies. He showed them pictures of the human crew from 11 years ago, happy, normal people doing their jobs. Then pictures of the same people during the evolution process. Some looked terrified. Some looked like they were in terrible pain. Some looked empty, like their minds had gone away. We lost 50 good people, Captain Kong-Wu said quietly. 50 friends who died so that the rest of us could learn how to save the galaxy. But the ones who survived became something amazing, said Kim Hannah. She held up her hand, and everyone could see through it like it was made of glass. Then it became solid again. We learned to control matter with our minds. We learned to exist in multiple dimensions. We learned to create instead of just consume. Most importantly, said Park Nari, we learned to generate pure creativity, the one thing the Devours cannot eat. When they try to consume our evolved thoughts, it hurts them. It reminds them of what they used to be before they became hungry. Admiral Vex's scales rippled with worry. How long does this evolution take? For humans, it took 3 years, said Dr. Choi Byum. But we were alone and had to figure everything out by ourselves. With our help, we can teach your people in days instead of years. How many will die? Asked Prime Node Kavith. The humans looked at each other sadly. We don't know, Captain Kong-Wu admitted. Every species is different. Some might adapt easily. Others might not be able to change at all. And if we don't try? Asked Han Mirae. Park Nari gestured to the wall, which now showed a map of the galaxy. Huge dark areas showed where the Devours had already consumed everything. Then in 4 days, the core worlds die. In 2 months, every intelligent species in the galaxy becomes extinct. In 6 months, the Devours move on to the next galaxy. The room was quiet except for the soft humming of the ship's impossible engines. We have to try, said Elder Zith finally. Even if we lose some people, it's better than losing everyone. Captain, Kong-Wu nodded. Then we begin immediately. We'll start with volunteers. People who are willing to risk everything to save their worlds. What do you need from us? Asked Admiral Vex. Your best and bravest people, said Dr. Choi Byum. And the courage to become something you've never been before. Outside the impossible walls of the ship, space seemed to darken as the Devourer fleet came closer to the galaxy's heart. The galactic core was full of stars that had burned for billions of years. Now it was full of ships. More ships than anyone had ever seen in one place. Millions of them, from every species in the galaxy. Big Zilithian warships with teeth painted on their sides. Small, fast trader vessels loaded with supplies. Strange crystal people, ships that looked like flying jewels. All of them waiting for the end of the world. Captain Kang-Wu stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn and looked at the biggest fleet in galactic history. But he knew it would not be enough. Not the old way. How many volunteers did we get? He asked Dr. Choi Byum. 3,000 from each major species. 12,000 total. They all know they might die, Kong-Wu nodded sadly. 12,000 brave souls willing to become something new. It was not many compared to the trillions who lived in the galaxy. But it would have to be enough. Are they ready? As ready as we can make them in 4 days, Park Nari said from her station. Her fingers moved over controls that existed in 3 dimensions at once. The first groups have already started changing. The Zilithians are adapting well. Their warrior minds help them fight the fear. The crystal people are struggling more. Their thoughts are too organized. Through the big window, Kang-Wu could see the volunteer ships. They look different now. Not as changed as the Eternal Dawn, but not normal either. Their hulls shimmered with new colors. Strange patterns moved across their surfaces like living tattoos. Captain, said Lim Jun from the weapons station. Long-range sensors are picking up the enemy fleet. They'll be here in 2 hours. How many? Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. It's hard to count them because they exist in multiple dimensions. Kang Wu felt cold fear in his stomach. Even with all their evolution, even with 12,000 changed soldiers, the Devourers still outnumbered them greatly. "Sir," said Kim Hanna, "Admiral Vex is asking to speak with you." The main screen lit up. Admiral Vex appeared, but he looked very different from 4 days ago. His scales had turned silver instead of green. His eyes glowed with soft blue light. When he moved, reality seemed to bend around him slightly. "Captain Kang Wu," he said, and his voice sounded like it was coming from very far away. "My warriors are ready. We can see into thought space now. We can fight the enemy where they really live." "How do you feel?" Kang Wu asked. Admiral Vex was quiet for a moment. "Strange. I can feel every one of my soldiers' minds. I can sense their fear and their courage. Before, I only cared about winning battles. Now I understand why we fight them. To protect the things we love, not to destroy the things we hate." The screen split to show other evolved leaders. Prime Node Kavith of the Vorthans no longer looked like one person speaking for many. Now they looked like many people who had chosen to speak as one. General Krex of the Warriors had arms made of pure energy. That could reshape matter by touching it. "We're as ready as we'll ever be," said Elder Zith. The crystal person's body now looked like living starlight held in the shape of a person. "But I must ask, will it be enough?" Before Kang Wu could answer, alarms started ringing throughout. "The fleet." "They're here," said Park Nari. The space in front of them began to change. It started as just empty darkness between the stars. Then the darkness grew deeper, thicker. It began to move like oil spreading across water. Strange shapes emerged from the darkness, shapes that hurt to look at directly. The Devourers had arrived. They did not look like ships. They looked like living holes in reality, surrounded by tentacles made of hungry shadow. Some were small, like fighters, others were huge like moons. All of them radiated a feeling of endless, terrible hunger. "All ships, this is Captain Kang Wu," he said over the fleet communication system. "Remember what we taught you? Don't fight their bodies. In normal space, reach into thought space. Fight their minds with your minds. Create beauty to battle their ugliness. Make new things to fight their hunger for destroying things." The battle began. It was unlike any battle ever fought before. Ships did not just shoot energy beams at each other. They fought with ideas made real. The evolved coalition forces created weapons out of pure thought, swords of crystallized hope, shields of living courage, spears of determined love for their homes. Lim Jun led a squadron of evolved warriors directly into the enemy formation. His ship existed in 7 dimensions at once, appearing and disappearing as he moved through thought space. When Devourers tried to eat his mind, they found something they had never tasted before, thoughts that grew stronger when attacked. "This is incredible," he reported over the communication system. "Their hunger actually feeds my creativity. The more they try to consume me, the more ideas I generate." But the battle was not going well. For every Devourer that was destroyed, or converted back to normal life, 3 coalition ships were consumed completely. The evolved warriors were fighting bravely, but there were just too many enemies. "We're losing," Admiral Vex said grimly. His silver scales were turning black from the effort of existing in multiple dimensions while fighting. "My warriors are brave, but we're outnumbered 50 to 1. On the main screen, Kang Wu watched whole squadrons of ships disappear into the hungry darkness. Good people, brave people, who had volunteered to become something new. Now they were gone forever. Not just dead, but completely erased from reality. "Captain," said Dr. Choi Byung quietly, "it's time." Kang Wu knew what he meant. They had always known this moment might come. The moment when they would have to use their final plan. The one that would save the galaxy but cost them everything. "Are all the human ships in position?" Kang Wu asked. "Yes, sir," said Kim Hanna. "All 450 evolved humans are ready. We can begin the broadcast anytime you give the order." Park Nari looked up from her controls. Her face was calm, but Kang Wu could see tears in her eyes. "The quantum transmitters are charged. We can reach every evolved being in the galaxy simultaneously. What about the ones who aren't evolved yet? The broadcast will change them. 2, said Dr. Troy Beam. Everyone who receives it will begin evolving immediately, but what? We don't know how many will survive the sudden change. It could be millions, it could be billions. There's no way to tell. Kong Wu looked out at the battle. More ships were disappearing every second. Soon there would be nothing left to save. And us? He asked quietly. We'll burn out, Park Nari said simply. Broadcasting our entire consciousness across the galaxy will destroy our bodies. Our minds might survive in thought space, but we'll never be human again. Kong Wu thought about Earth, green grass and blue skies and people laughing in the sunlight. He would never see any of that again. None of them would. Captain, said Lim Jun from his fighter, still battling the Devours, whatever you're planning, do it now. We can't hold them much longer. Kong Wu looked around at his crew, Park Nari with her brilliant mind, Kim Hanna with her impossible engineering, Dr. Choi Beam with his understanding of consciousness, all of them ready to give up their humanity to save the galaxy. Do it, he ordered. The eternal dawn began to glow with light that existed in dimensions beyond normal sight. The light spread to the other human ships, then reached out across space to touch every evolved mind in the galaxy. And the real battle for existence began. The light that came from the eternal dawn was not normal light. It carried something more than energy. It carried the essence of what it meant to be human. Every memory, every dream, every moment of creativity and love and hope that the crew had ever experienced. The broadcast spread across space faster than anything should be able to move. It reached the battle first, touching the minds of the 12,000 evolved warriors who were fighting the Devours. Admiral Vex felt. It hit his consciousness like warm rain after a long drought. Suddenly he could see through the eyes of every human who had ever lived. A mother holding her baby for the first time, a child seeing snowfall, an artist painting a sunset, a scientist discovering something new about the universe. What is this? He whispered, but he already knew. This was humanity's gift to the galaxy, not their technology or their weapons, but their way of seeing the world with wonder and hope. The feeling spread to his Zilithian warriors. Soldiers who had only known how to destroy suddenly understood why they needed to protect. They felt love for their enemies, not the Devours who had lost themselves, but the people the Devours used to be millions of years ago. Prime Node Kavith experienced something impossible for a Vorthan. Individual thought mixed with collective wisdom. The human broadcast showed them how to be one people with many voices instead of many people with one voice. For the first time in their species' history, each Vorthan could think alone while still sharing their thoughts with everyone else. General Krex of the warriors felt his rage transform into compassion. He still wanted to fight, but now he fought to save instead of to conquer. His energy arms reached out and grabbed a small devourer that was trying to consume a damaged coalition ship. Instead of destroying it, he held it gently and shared the human memory of forgiveness. The small devourer stopped trying to eat. For a moment, it remembered what it was like to create instead of consume. It remembered having a name and a family and dreams of exploring the stars. Then it made a choice. It chose to stop being hungry and start being alive again, but the broadcast did not stop with the evolved warriors. It raced across the galaxy at impossible speed, touching every planet, every space station, every ship. Billions of minds suddenly felt what it was like to be human. On the Zilithian home world, a young lizard child was learning to write when the broadcast hit her. She felt the human love of learning, the joy of discovery, the excitement of creating something new. She wrote her first poem that day about stars that dreamed of becoming flowers. In the Vorthan collective cities, individual Vorthans began to sing their own songs while still singing the group song. Music became richer and more beautiful because it had both harmony and individual voices. On crystal worlds, the living rock people felt human emotions for the first time. They learned about loneliness and friendship, about sadness and joy. Their crystal bodies began to glow with new colors that showed their feelings, but the broadcast was dangerous too. Not every mind could handle the sudden expansion of consciousness. Some people went crazy from feeling too much too fast. Others fell into deep sleep and did not wake up. On some worlds, 1 person in 10 survived the change. On others, 9 out of 10 made it through. Back at the battle, something amazing was happening. The Devours were slowing down. The hungry darkness that surrounded them was becoming less dark. Some of them stopped attacking entirely. A massive devourer, big as a moon, had been consuming an entire squadron of ships. But when the human broadcast touched it, something deep inside remembered what it was like to love. The devourer began to shrink, its hungry tentacles turning into arms that reached out in friendship instead of appetite. "My name was Kesvar," it said in a voice like distant thunder. "I had a mate and 3 children. We lived on a world with purple oceans. I remember now. I remember who I was before I became hungry. More devours were changing. Not all of them. Many had been hungry for too long and could not remember how to be anything else. But hundreds of them chose to become people again instead of staying monsters. The battle was turning. Coalition forces that had been losing badly were now winning. Not by destroying their enemies, but by helping them remember who they used to be." On the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, Captain Kang-woo felt his body beginning to fade. The broadcast was using up his life force, burning through his physical form to send his consciousness across the galaxy. "Is it working?" he asked weakly. Park Nari's form was already becoming transparent like mist. "Yes, the evolution is spreading to every inhabited world. Billions of minds are expanding. The galaxy will never be the same." "Are they staying themselves?" Kang-woo asked. This was his greatest fear, that in trying to save everyone, they would destroy what made each species special. Dr. Choi Byum smiled as his body dissolved into pure thought. "They're becoming more themselves than ever. The Zilithians are more honorable. The Vorthans are more united while still being individual. The traitors are more generous. Everyone is becoming the best version of what they already were." Kim Hannah's voice came from everywhere and nowhere as her consciousness spread across the ship's systems. "Captain, the quantum engines are evolving too. The ship is becoming something new. Something that can exist anywhere in the galaxy at once." Lin Jun's fighter suddenly appeared next to the Eternal Dawn, even though he had been fighting on the other side of the battle. "Sir, I can feel every evolved person in the galaxy. We're all connected now, all part of something bigger." The last few devourers who refused to change were fleeing back into the dark spaces between galaxies. But most had chosen to remember who they used to be. The battle was over, and life had won. Captain Kang-woo felt his human form disappear completely. But he was not gone. He existed now in the thoughts of every evolved being in the galaxy. He was part of the great network of consciousness that connected all life. "We did it," he said, and his voice was heard on 1,000,000,000,000 worlds at once. "We saved the galaxy by teaching it how to become more than it was." Ambassador Han Mai-rae, now evolved and glowing with inner light, stood before the transformed Galactic Coalition. "The humans kept their promise," she said. "They came back from the darkness not as conquerors but as teachers. They showed us that evolution is not about becoming stronger or smarter. It's about becoming more connected, more creative, more loving." The Eternal Dawn had become something impossible, a ship that existed everywhere at once, carrying the consciousness of its crew to any world that needed help learning how to grow. Years passed. The galaxy healed from the damage the Devours had caused. New worlds were born from the creative energy of evolved civilizations. Art and music and literature flourished like never before. Different species worked together to build wonders that no single race could have imagined alone. Sometimes, when a world faced a problem too big to solve alone, a strange ship would appear in their sky. It looked like liquid metal covered with glowing patterns. The people on board looked human, but they were more than human now. They were teachers and guardians, helping other species learn and grow without losing what made them special. Captain Kang-woo and his crew had become legends. The humans who sacrificed their bodies to save the galaxy's soul. They were remembered not as warriors who destroyed enemies, but as gardeners who helped all life bloom, and in the dark spaces between galaxies, Other Devourer fleets still hunted. But now they would find something different when they arrived. They would find a galaxy that had learned to evolve, to grow, to become more than the sum of its parts. They would find a galaxy that was ready.